These are the notes for section 5.3 on adding and subtracting decimals. The most important thing to do, most important thing to remember is to line up your decimal points. And then you can add zeros in the blanks. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. Alright, so example 1. We do 16.92 plus 48.34. In order to line up your decimals, you're going to stack them vertically. 16.92 and then 48.34 directly underneath. And then you'll add vertically. Your decimal point comes straight down. And then you add each column. And so your answer is 65.26. So you line up your decimal points all the way down to your answer. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one, and then you can see the answer. So try 5.897 plus 4.632. So you have 5.897 plus 4.632. Again, those decimals are lined up. Add everything vertically. Bring your decimals straight down. So you should have gotten 10.529. Let's look at one where there's some blanks we need to fill in. If I have to do 1.319 plus 2.4, when I write this down vertically, I line up the decimals. So it looks a little funny. The decimals need to be lined up. And then you can add zeros in so that everything's nice and stacked. And then you can add them together. Bring the decimal point straight down. And your answer would be 3.719. Alright, go ahead and pause the video on this one and try. $13.761 plus 8.32. So you have 13.761 plus 8.32. Again, line up those decimals. Fill in a 0 here and a 0 there. Bring your decimals straight down. Then add everything up. And you should get 22.081. Alright, so we did all adding. They were all nice and positive. We'll work with negatives in just a little bit. Let's look at some subtracting. Same idea here. So if I have 28.362 minus 16.5, we're going to line them up. Minus 16.5, we'll add a couple zeros in to get everything nice and lined up. Bring your decimals straight down and then subtract. And you should get 11.862. For this one, go ahead and pause the video and try. The 146.35 minus 58.98. So 146.35 minus 58.98. Add the 0. Bring your decimal straight down. Here we'll do some borrowing. And you should have gotten 87.37. Alright, this one it's going to say a little bit different. It'll say subtract 22.7 from 72.9. We talked about the word from back in chapter 3. When it says from and gives a number, you put that number first and then the other number. So it's kind of backwards. You do the number that it says it's coming from and then subtract the first number. Bring your decimal down. And you should get 50.2. I'll let you try one. So if it says subtract 6.425 from 11.81. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one. So you're going to start with 11.81, subtract 6.425. We need to add a 0. Do some borrowing. Bring your decimals straight down. You should have gotten 5.385. And again, I kept all these nice and positive for subtracting. Alright, now we're going to deal with the negatives. There's a few things to remember when you're working with negatives, and I'll kind of walk you through those different things to remember. So adding and subtracting with negatives. This is just kind of how I go through it to help me out, and I don't overcomplicate things. So before you start, I suggest deciding the answer to these two questions. The first question is, am I really adding or subtracting? So we know with negatives, sometimes even though it says adding, we're really subtracting, or sometimes when it says subtracting, we're really going to end up adding. So you kind of make that decision. Am I adding or subtracting based on what I see? And then the second question you want to answer is my answer going going to be positive or negative. And so you make that decision before you start. Before you do any math, you make the decision on these two questions. And then you make the math a little bit easier on yourself. Let me show you what I mean. So example 1, if I have 13.245 plus negative 18, before I do anything, I'm going to think about those two questions. So looking at these, I have a positive plus a negative. And we learned in chapter 1 that when we have a positive plus a negative, we're really going to be subtracting those. And then is my answer going to be positive or negative? The negative number is bigger, and so my final result is going to be negative. So I've decided those two things before I've written anything down. And then to make the problem easier on myself, I'm going to do the bigger number minus the smaller number, since I know I have to subtract. So I'm going to do 18 minus 13.245. And I'll do the subtraction. 5, 5, 7, and 4. So I get 4.755, but I know that my answer needs to be negative, so I just put the negative on my answer. To me, that's easier than stressing while also trying to do the math. So make those decisions, make the problem easier on yourself, and then just make sure your final answer has the correct sign. Let's try another one like that. If I have negative 0.7 plus negative 0.33. So before I do anything, I'm going to answer those two questions. Am I really adding or subtracting? I have a negative plus a negative. So I will be adding these two numbers. And a negative plus a negative gives me a negative answer. So I'm going to do 0.7 plus 0.33. I'm not going to worry about the negatives right now. I'm just going to add. Bring my decimal point down. I can put zeros here, carry a 1. Should get 1.03, and then my answer needs to be negative, so I add my negative. Alright, go ahead and try this one. If I have negative 6.02 plus 100.5. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one. So if I have a negative plus a positive, I'm really going to be subtracting. And my final answer, the positive number is bigger, so my final answer will be positive. So I'm going to do 100.5 minus 6.02. Add in some zeros here. Bring my decimal down, do my subtraction. 94. Should get 94.48. My final answer is positive, so I am done. Alright, let's do 3 more, and then we'll be done with this section. Alright, we'll do this one together, and then I'll give you one to practice. If I have negative 0.37 minus negative 6. Well, with the minus and the negative, I'm going to do keep, change, change. So negative 0.37 plus positive 6. Now I'll answer my two questions. I have a negative plus a positive, so I'm really going to be subtracting. And the positive number is bigger, so my final solution will be positive. So 6.00 minus 5.37. Do some borrowing. 3, 6, and 5. So 5.63, and my final answer is positive. So I'm done. So if I had 5.8 minus 10.03, go ahead and pause the video and try this one. So I'm going to keep change again, 5.8 plus negative 10.03. I'll really be subtracting, and my final answer will be negative. So I'm going to do 10.03 minus 5.8. Bring the decimal down. 3, let's see, 9, 2, and 4. So 4.23 needs to be negative, and I'm done. Let's do one more. 0.8 minus negative 1.2. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one. So I'll do keep change. It becomes 0.8 plus positive 1.2. So I have a positive plus a positive, so I'll be adding, and my answer will be positive. So 0.8 plus 1.2 will be 10. You get 2.0, which is really just 2. Either way is fine. Alright, that is it for section 5.3, and we'll go over section 5.4 next week.